Should you get the new model or get the same one secondhand? Can you get a better secondhand camera than a new camera? And does shutter count matter if you're shooting video? All these questions and more answered in this new versus secondhand camera myth-busting shakedown. I'll never get that voiceover job, will I? Let's start with the biggest myth, and that is using shutter count as a guide for buying a photography camera that is going to be used primarily for video. I had a quick look around the internet and in chat rooms in particular, to be honest, looking for trends on this, and it's really hard to find anyone, literally anyone, that complains of their camera finally croaking it due to excessive shutter count. And these are photographers. Keep in mind that DSLRs used almost exclusively for video in their past life won't register towards shutter count. Well, at the worst, each time you turn on the video function, it counts as one. And even if it's been used for both, most half-decent DSLRs need to clock up at least 200,000 actuations or photos before they start to fall apart. A previous owner would need to have taken at least 27 photos every single day for 20 years before it would burn out. If the secondhand camera you're looking at is even 10 years old, shutter count is just not a factor unless you honestly want to film every day for the next 10 years without upgrading your camera, which is more use than even a brand new camera gets. The only evidence I could find of a camera actually getting to the end of its life due to shutter count was when a test was run by Continue Crushing Tech in 2017, and a Canon 7 Mark II had its shutter held down at full blast, taking 3,600 actuations or photos per hour until it gave up the ghost after 5 hours. Just shy of 200,000 actuations. And this is not video, this is 5 hours of holding down the fastest high-speed shutter release setting it had. So remember, I said before that turning a DSLR's function on and filming for a while and then turning it off, that counts as one actuation. So you can start to see how irrelevant shutter count is unless you're a super prolific photographer as well. And if you're looking for a secondhand Sony mirrorless camera, don't even bother looking for a shutter count. And if you're looking for a secondhand Sony mirrorless camera, don't even bother looking for a shutter count. Sony seems so confident that it doesn't matter, you can't even find one on any of its listings. Hopefully I've convinced you that shutter count is irrelevant. Okay, you probably don't want one that's over 200,000, but you'll find most secondhand cameras are in the low tens of thousands at most, and that's fine. I'll be so bold as to say that if I'm buying a secondhand camera, unless it looks like it's been dragged backwards through a desert for 5 years, I'm not going to check the shutter count. Maybe you're a tech nerd and you want to choose between two identical and identically priced cameras, then flip a coin, because shutter count isn't going to make any difference. Okay, let's move on to comparing the brand new unboxed model versus buying the same camera secondhand. There's definitely something nice about having a brand new bit of kit that's straight from the factory. That's why those unboxing videos are strangely satisfying. Marketing 101 is that people buy emotionally and then rationalize the purchase after. This is the big emotional buy that camera companies count on. So some cameras are churned out year after year with no modifications, and just the simple fact it's new will get it across the line. Good for them. But if you can get a half-decent warranty on the same camera secondhand, can you save money and get 99% of the same thing? Yes. I'm going to be using the Sony a7 Mark II because there are now several newer models, so it's nowhere near the latest, which can often be inflated in price due to the hype of new releases. So it's a stable price and still a very good new camera. Brand new, the Sony a7 Mark II body only is just over £1,000. Secondhand, through a reliable site like MPB or CVP, where you can buy it used with an automatic 6-month warranty, the price is $750. There's a 25% saving for a like new camera with a 6-month guarantee that you've not been sold a lemon or something off the back of a truck. You can save even more if you're buying from a private seller on eBay or in the wild west of Facebook Marketplace. But there's more spade work you'll need to do before buying, and the risk that you'll end up with someone else's hidden problem. Maybe they dropped it in the bath and it just hasn't seized up yet. Still no bids. Should you buy the same thing secondhand from a reputable reseller and save around 25%? Yes. Next up, can you get a better secondhand camera than a new camera? Sounds impossible, but this happens all the time depending on what you'd be using the camera for. Let's take the new Sony a7 Mark IV-R that's just come out at the time of filming. I'm sure it's brilliant. The Mark III this is being filmed on is a superb camera all round for our purposes, but the Mark IV is $3,500 brand new. I'll put aside the fact that with almost identical specs, it is double the cost of the Mark III, and show you a second-hand camera that is 8 years old and far better if you wanted to shoot something cinematic. The Canon C500 second-hand on MPB is currently £3,200. Has better dynamic range, 10-bit recording, and built-in professional XLR ports. The Sony a7 Mark IV-R is brand new and overpriced for what it is by a long way, and this is not a one-off. So whatever you're making as a small creator, it's unlikely that you need to spend anywhere near this kind of money to get incredible cameras. The important thing is to understand what you'll be using it for. Versus.com was a brilliant resource for this vlog. There's no kickback for mentioning them. It's just that if you want the specs of almost any DSLR side by side when making a decision, it's pretty handy to have. And of course, you need to consider all the stuff that goes with them, including lenses and sound equipment. Speaking of which, there'll be a separate video on each of these coming up, so make sure you're subscribed to get those. Hope I managed to bust some myths, and if you haven't already, watch this video if you want to know 10 production tips to improve your videos, and have a look at our latest release, which could be anything.